everyone, this is Jolios PL, and today I will tell you everything you need to know about mech frames. Basically, the frame is your mech skeleton on top of which you place armor and weapons. Of course, you don't need to build your mech based on a frame, but since this tutorial is focused on real robot design, I am going to include it. You see, it just makes sense from a logistical point of view for combat vehicles to use standardized parts so that they can be quickly repaired in the field if they get damaged. So, if you're a beginner, how should you go about building a mech frame from scratch? Well, it's very simple. You just look up somebody else's frame and then copy it. Let me explain. In my experience, it is very difficult to find your own style of building that will allow you to make the mech of your dreams. The thing that got me into mech building was when I first saw the mechs created by Zephyrchaos. So I tried to replicate his style and I ended up with the Z-frame. I built a couple mechs using it, but I really wanted my mechs to have a cockpit in the chest so there would be more room for the backpacks. I tried replicating his newer mechs, but that didn't work out all too well in my opinion. I then stumbled onto a creator called Caleb L, who made mechs that were much closer to the Gundam aesthetic. I followed one of his tutorials for a torso with a cockpit inside, but it still wasn't chunky enough for me. So I modified it a bit and ended up with what you can see in my Gundam Karasu. I modified it even further by once again adding more armor and these double jointed shoulders inspired by Zephyrchaos, and I ended up with the Gundam frame, which I have been using for about a year and will probably use for years to come. In short, I created my own perfect frame by studying, copying and then modifying other people's designs. I kept what I liked, changed what I didn't, and it worked out really well in my opinion. Before you actually start building, there is just one more thing you need to figure out. How to choose the right frame for your mech. Well, most people would want a frame with the most impressive amount of articulation, but in some cases that might backfire. Remember that more articulation means less stability and, more importantly, less sturdiness. When you have a completed frame in your hands, it may feel like it's perfect, nothing's falling off and the articulation is great. But when you start adding armor and weapons, you may see some problems. Before you start building, you need to think about what your finished mech will look like and ask yourself, how much articulation do I absolutely need? For example, the Gustav Karl is one of the tallest and most heavily armored mobile suits in Gundam. It's made to fight on land and it moves mainly by hovering above the ground. So it's tall and heavy, which means that if I added a waist joint it could easily fall apart. It moves by hovering, which means that I won't display it in extremely dynamic poses, so a standard 90-degree bend at the knee is more than enough. Also, because of the heavy shoulder armor and the grenade launcher, my regular double-jointed shoulders would have trouble supporting the arms, so I reinforced them a little bit. The Just a Sniper, however, is a different story. It's not a light mobile suit, but it's definitely lighter than the Gustav Karl, so I could add a bit more articulation without any problems. I wanted it to be able to hold its railgun with both hands, so I kept my standard shoulder design for maximum range of movement. I also wanted it to be able to kneel, so I made a double jointed knee to give it much more posability. In short, don't give your mech more articulation than it needs to have, and once again feel free to change parts of the frame if something isn't working. And that's it on the subject of frames. In the description you can find links to all my frame tutorials, the creators mentioned in this video, and some other frames I found on the internet that you could use. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.